Thanks. My electronic gadgets have been failing me, so hopefully this will work. I just want to say thanks to Jimmy and for asking me back. This is really a lot of fun to be here, and also to Becky, wherever Becky is, and Kim, and the whole crew who's made this, certainly for me, and I know for all of you, an extremely enjoyable and happy occasion. Yeah, round of applause for them. So last year at the Q&A, at the end of the Q&A, we all had a statement that we would make that we want everybody to go away with. And the statement 2 years in a row, and I'm probably going to say it again this year, that I had said was to get strong. So since last year till now, how many of you out there did what I asked and took up a strength training program and got strong? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How does it feel? Feel good? Yes. I agree. Now I need glasses this year, where last year I didn't. So low carb isn't doing anything good for me in that respect. Yeah, well, I do that. For those of you people who haven't adopted a resistance training program yet, of any kind, doesn't have to be the way I teach it necessarily, but for those of you who haven't, I hope that this talk today will sort of encourage you, will do two things: encourage you to do it, and educate you on some of the ways you can do it that are not exactly the best way to do it, and hopefully I'll convince you that perhaps the way I might suggest that you do it, you'll adopt that fashion, that method. So let's see if this gadget works. It did. You like that mugshot? My daughter took that. She's like, "Dad, you got to use this for the show." So I said, okay. Now, you all know me by now, and when I talk about these kinds of things, especially with my clients, whether it's exercise, whether it's low carbohydrate eating, I don't pull any punches. I tell it like it is, and I'll tell you the truth. I will never tell you or my clients anything that it is you want to hear. All right? So, and I also encourage, if at any point during the slideshow you have questions, like I haven't made sense, or you completely disagree, or you hate my guts, and you just want to ask me a question, just stop, raise your hand, I'll call it out, and then we'll continue with the presentation. All right. So the question is, why should you believe me? And just because I say so isn't really good enough. I don't have a master's degree or any kind of specialized degree in exercise science or nutrition. I'm not a mad scientist like the old, maybe Dr. Volek, or not mad, but really strong, in fact. And I'm not God. Who knows what MD stands for? Not medical doctor. Who can tell me? So I'm going to make enemies right now, starting now. What's that?
Medical deity?
Yeah, me deity. Present company accepted, of course. So, now, this is why you should believe me. My daughter took that picture too. I use this one slide a lot, and I use it because I'm sure you all know that in the field of nutrition, there are an enormous amount of myths and falsehoods. Dr. Westman's already talked about that, Dr. Vernon. But I would say if there's one field that far surpasses nutrition in terms of the nonsense that you hear, it's fitness and exercise. How many people do CrossFit? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now I'm going to make 7 new enemies. All right. Well, let's begin. The main thing you hear about CrossFit is that CrossFit, and I think this is a universal truth, CrossFit turns your body into a Paleolithic Cro-Magnon machine where you can, like, you know, crawl under logs and leap over rocks and do all kinds of things that you can't do, or you couldn't accomplish with conventional resistance training. The fact of the matter is that while these folks look very, very fit, they're not necessarily fit because they do CrossFit. They have the kinds of bodies that allow them to do the CrossFit, and CrossFit, of course, confers upon that person increased strength. Or does it make you short in either one of these cases? Now, so what is it that it also could do? What can CrossFit also maybe accomplish? Now, not that this happens to everyone, but this is a fairly common happenstance of CrossFit. Your legs get injured, your hands get torn up. It's in order to perform at a top level, you are going to subject yourself to a lot of danger. And the reason why I say this to you is because I want you to understand that if you enjoy CrossFit, you should do it. If you enjoy it because you get camaraderie out of it, it's something that you can embrace for fun. Yes?
What's CrossFit?
Ah. Okay, CrossFit was started, I think, in 1997, 1998. I forget the name of the gentleman who began it. But essentially what it is a compilation of many different events that people across the world now challenge themselves to see who is the quote-unquote fittest person on Earth. So they'll do rope climbing, free weight, powerlifting snatches, tire climbing, swims, jogs on one leg. You name it, they'll compete against each other doing it. So, but here's the thing. I have a lot of clients who say, hey, Fred, I started doing CrossFit. Isn't that great? And I said, well, why are you doing that? He goes, well, you know, because I got to get, you know, I have to be explosively fit. You know, I have to, well, what's going to happen if, you know, I get chased by a dog? You know, how am I going to get away? You know, you know, but what they don't understand is, and they're not even necessarily having fun. They'll injure their ankle and they'll say, oh, I can't do that machine now, Fred. I can't, doctor, I blew out my ACL. I can't do that now. So what they've done is they've started to engage in a practice that rather than help them, and it does in some ways, also hurts them. And that's something that I want you all to understand, that you don't have to perform these types of activities in order to give yourself the strongest and the healthiest body possible via exercise. So, in the end, what CrossFit does for you is it makes you stronger, and that's a good thing. But it does so in a manner that is, or can be, often quite dangerous. So, how many people here do Pilates? One. Just one? Oh, two. Okay. Three. And do you enjoy it? Yes. Okay. Again, that's another good thing. But here's the bad thing. Now, this is an actual quote from Mari Windsor's infomercial, where she states that basically, you know, and she, if you want to get the kind of body a dancer has, those long, lean, beautiful muscles of a dancer, that you do these Pilates movements, and those long, lean muscles will be yours. Now, if you're squeamish, you've got 3 seconds to close your eyes. If you really want to elongate your muscles, and correct me if I'm wrong, doctors, this is how you'd go about doing it. You'd open it up, you'd take the origin, and you'd move it closer to the insertion, or vice versa, close you up, and you'd have long, lean muscles. But obviously, this is not a very good thing. So, what is it that Pilates does for you? Can anybody answer? Works your core, but what specifically is it doing for you? Makes you stronger. But now you see this woman in this Pilates reformer? Do you see that almost the entire weight of her body is on top of her cervical spine? This is not good. It's also not good when you do these kinds of poses in yoga. So you have to be very, very careful when you involve yourself in these kinds of practices, because very often the people who are teaching them to you, while they mean well, they're not taking some of these dangers into account. Who's ever heard of balance training? Or who's ever had a physical therapist or a trainer make them do balance type exercises? All the way back there. That's a lot of people. Okay. And, well, the thing about balance is this. There is no such thing as balance. Now, you go to a doctor, an ENT, if there's something wrong with your cochlea or something wrong with the mechanisms within your ear, then yes, you can lose your balance and fall. But assuming everything's A-okay, there is no such thing as a balance. In other words, someone who walks a tightrope is not necessarily going to be good at walking a balance beam. Someone who stands on top of a BAPS board, you know what that is, a wobble board that they give you in physical therapy to increase your neuromuscular facilitation, all that's going to do is get you good at working on the BAPS board. It's not going to transfer to any skill outside in the real world. It's a specific adaptation to an imposed demand. Now look here. If you were to ask me, hey Fred, can you come up with an exercise that would hurt someone the most? This is what I'd say. I mean, just take a look at that for a second. Trainers do this with their clients today because balance training has become a huge modality in exercise. People do this with people all the time. I won't try this at home now. Well, I guess we have no sound. Or maybe the volume. It's not my computer, so I can't figure it out. No. Imagine if that was concrete or the gym floor. So balance training, for the most part, if you slip and you fall, can get you injured.
Front left.
Front left.
Play it
Oh,
again.
well. Play it again.
Still not volume.
No sound. All right, well. I thought I heard something there. Well, we'll just watch it again for fun, shall we? No. No. Oh, all right, no sound. Well, that's too bad, but that's okay. So again, balance training, if you do this, if your trainer says or suggests that you do this, smile, say thank you, and walk away. Sometimes, like you saw with the guy on the using the barbell, sometimes it gets you stronger, but it's not the balance training itself that's getting you stronger. It's the other things that you're doing while you're balance training that actually get you stronger. So if you just remove the balance part of it and just get yourself stronger, that's the way to go. Now, who's heard of plyometrics? Okay. Now, plyometrics is a type of training where you do all kinds of leaps and bounds and jumps over boxes. This guy's jumping over this bench machine and in his bare feet. So the idea behind plyometrics is that, well, you know, Fred, while lifting weights the way you do it slow, build some slow strength. If you do plyometrics, it'll build explosive strength, again, so you can jump out of the way of the car or run away from the dog. But what you're actually doing is, in the process of making yourself stronger, that's taking it to an extreme. If the sound was on, that would have been crazy. So what does it do? When you do plyometric training, jumps and things of this nature, you're just making your muscles stronger, but not exactly in the safest way possible. Now, who's heard of kettlebells? Probably a lot of people. And who does kettlebell training? I'll bet you, well, a few. Okay, but what are kettlebells? Kettlebells really are just dumbbells with a handle on the top. And so, what does that represent when you're exercising? It represents a form of resistance, which is going to make you stronger. And this is an old quote that I found, and I agree with this quote 100%. It really doesn't make any difference what tool you use. The most important thing is that you're doing something to pit your muscles against a resistance that will stimulate a positive tissue adaptation. And what I mean by that is giving you more muscle, making your muscles stronger. All right, so this is a big myth I hear all the time in my gym. That muscles can turn into fat. So This is a picture of 5 pounds of fat and 5 pounds of muscle. And early on, we were talking about not caring about the scale. Valerie was telling us that the scale doesn't make any difference. And in my gym, and she's very right, in a lot of ways, it doesn't make any difference what you weigh, because if I strength train you and I make you 5 to 10 pounds of muscle heavier, and you lose 5 to 10 pounds of fat, what do you weigh? The same. So what you're really looking to do is to transform your body. So if you stop resistance training, what you'll do is start to lose that muscle tissue, which will lower your metabolic rate somewhat. And if you continue to eat the way you're eating, you'll wind up getting fatter. So your muscle hasn't turned to fat. You've just lost muscle and gotten fatter. And that's the fact, Jack. All right. So the other thing is that if you lift weights but you don't stretch, you're going to be tight and muscle bound. Now, there never was any evidence that that's true. It isn't true. In fact, if you strength train properly, research is pretty clear that you're going to enhance your joint flexibility, not hinder it. These are some of the most muscular people on earth, and they're also some of the most flexible people on earth. And who wants to take a guess at who from the Olympic athletes, which Olympic athletes were the second most flexible of all? Gymnasts being first, no question. Weightlifters. So again, what do well-developed muscles do for you? They make you more flexible, enduring, and stronger. Thank you. Well, another myth is that aerobic exercise. Now, who here does aerobics? I want to pick on somebody. All right, Monique, but why do you do it?
I enjoy it.
You enjoy it. Any other reason why?
I enjoy it.
Ah. So most people do it because, well, many people do it because they enjoy it, but they also do it because they think they need to do it in order to strengthen their heart and their lungs. So for example, you'll have somebody, let's say an older person who walks 3 or 4 blocks and they're completely out of breath. Then they decide, oh wow, you know, my heart, my lungs are weak, I better start doing some aerobics and strengthen my heart and my lungs. And lo and behold, 6 months later, they're walking 3 miles and it's not even a problem. So they assume that what they've done is that they've improved their heart and they've improved their lungs. Fact of the matter is, you can't take your heart out of your body and put it on a treadmill, right? Your heart is attached to something, right? It's attached to your body, which is attached to your legs, your arms. And so what actually is happening is that when you engage in exercise, whether it's aerobic exercise or whether it's strength training exercise, what you're doing is you're improving your intramuscular mitochondria. So you see the slide on the left shows you like a little picture of what a mitochondrion is, and they're like energy-producing powerhouses, cell houses of power. On the right-hand side, you see muscle fiber, then you see myofibrils, which are the little fibers inside the big fiber, and within those, you see the mitochondria. I think you can, if my pointer works, see it right in there, mitochondria? So when you exercise, you're proliferating, increasing the total number of mitochondria within your muscles. That's the reason why you can walk further or run further. It has virtually nothing to do with any change to your heart and lungs. It has virtually everything to do with the improvements that you're making inside the muscle itself. Any questions on that? Because I know that's a big one for a lot of people. That they have a hard time sort of, it's like understanding that fat isn't bad for you. You know? All right, so another one is the warm-up. Now you've all heard that if you go to the gym, before you do anything, especially before you weightlift, you got to warm up. Well, is that really true? Well, there really isn't any science to support that that is true. And the fact of the matter is, what temperature is your body now? If you were to warm up and make your body temperature 100, 101 degrees, what would you have? You're a smart crowd. So the warm-up is really more of something that football coaches and strength coaches kind of made up to get like 20 or 30 people on a field or in a room and get them to start doing something that gets them ready mentally or emotionally to start doing something very physical. But when you go to the gym, you don't have to waste any time warming up if you're performing at all And especially if you're performing your exercises in a very slow, and your strength training exercises in a very slow and controlled fashion. A physical therapist once said to me, well, Fred, that's ridiculous. You know, you gotta, I said, well, what would you do? What would you ask your patient client to do? She said, well, I'd have them, you know, get on a bike or get on a treadmill and plod away at about 5, 6, 7 miles an hour for maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes and then, you know, put them on the strength machines. And I said, what warmed them up for that? No? Now this is one that kills me. So, now, and be honest, how many people in the audience have it in their head that weightlifting is not good for children? So you've all read my book then. All right, that's good. Well, the truth of the matter is not only is it not bad for children to lift weights, it's actually extremely good for children to lift weights. And that children can actually experience increases, slight increases in muscle, bone mineral density, endurance like we discussed about with mitochondria. It is one of the most productive forms of exercise that a child can engage in. And in fact, research is very clear that the only form of exercise that actually does anything for adolescent obesity is resistance training. Aerobic exercise programs have no benefit to them whatsoever. In fact, Dr. Wayne Westcott is one of the leading researchers, exercise physiologists in this country. I was at one of his lectures recently, and he was scratching his head. He said, you know, I can't understand it. We put our kids on these aerobic, and he's a great guy, Wayne. I put these kids on an aerobic exercise program, and their aerobic endurance, nothing changes. It's because they're already as healthy as they can possibly be. So it doesn't affect them because they're growing. But with us as adults, what we're doing is we're getting weaker, we're losing muscle. And that's the reason why it seems like we don't have the endurance we did, like I discussed before. It's that loss of muscle, the loss of mitochondria. And that's what we want to regain. Now it's too bad there's no sound. This is my daughter at 6 years old. And I just want to show you perfect exercise form. See how nice and slow she's going? Now what I'm saying to her now is, I'm just encouraging her to go nice and slow and to try to get 5 or 6 repetitions out of it. Then she's looking at me going, oh, you gotta be crazy. See, Tom, I got video, you didn't. You got sound, I didn't. Perhaps someday we should collaborate. And this is her, see how hard she's working right on the last one? And at this one I said to her, okay, try, honey, just give it a try one more. And she says, no. So, what does, oh, thanks. So again, what does resistance training do that benefits the child? And it makes them stronger. All right. So Monique, like I said earlier, I don't pull punches. I have to say things the way they are, and that's just me. That's how I am. So I kind of got to say this with a heavy heart. The only one. I don't mind taking second place. I was trying to find some Zumba music, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway because there's no sound. So anyhow, the bottom line is it's really all about making your muscles stronger and making them stronger in the safest manner possible. I like to believe that's my system, my slow burn system of training. But it's very, very important in the end that, especially from the standpoint of fat loss and health beyond eating a Paleolithic low-carb diet, even when you're eating as perfectly as you can, as we grow older, we're still getting weaker. Strength training also helps hormone regulation for both men and for women. And the beauty of it is you only need to really spend about 15 minutes once or twice a week. That's it, to get tremendous benefit from resistance training. Thank you. So I wanted to take it. Do you have to give some questions? I thought maybe we'd take some questions. Yes, in the front.
I have a question. What are those vibration machines supposed to do? You know, you stand on those platforms, they're all the rage now.
Yeah, it's supposed to take your money. Here's what they do. People get benefit from it because in order to not fly off it, you got to hold on for dear life.
For the people that couldn't hear, can you tell them what she saw about the vibration?
Oh yeah, she was talking about the vibration units, those things you stand on and it shakes and jiggles and, you know, gives you a lot of inner thigh chafe. That's what it did to me. But it's really a marketing ploy. They really don't confer the kinds of benefits that people say that they do. I mean, remember back way 30, 40 years ago, they had those things that vibrated your belt, thinking it was going to vibrate the fat off your belly or off your legs, which of course is absolutely ridiculous. Or Jack LaLanne, right. But no, your time is better spent on the exercise machines or with free weights doing a strengthening program. Yes?
Is your book on Kindle yet?
Is my book on Kindle yet? It is, I've tried, it's up to the publishers to allow it, so there's, yeah. I wish it was. Yes?
Brett, you asked us why we should believe you. Show us those guns, brother.
Oh, no. Right, so the question was, he wasn't sure if I was saying that aerobics was a good thing or a bad thing. And what else did you say?
Well,
Or how much?
to what extent, if it's good for the mitochondria, how much is good and how much is overdoing it, that sort of thing.
Right, well, aerobics in and of themselves is a very low-level stimulus to the muscles. It will give you some increased mitochondria, but at what cost? So I think we all know that jogging, and forget for a second that you enjoy it. Some people enjoy smoking. Some people enjoy high-carb diets. All right, so it's not a matter of enjoyment per se, is what is your goal? What is it that you want? And most people just don't know what they want from an exercise program, as long as you're human, is you want increased muscle tissue. How you go about doing that can either be inefficient and more dangerous than it needs to be via aerobics, plyometrics, CrossFit, or some other type of exercise. Or you can do it safely by using exercise. Gosh, it's a lot of talking. By using exercise equipment in a very slow and controlled fashion. So, I don't know if I can answer you at this point, but we'll try.
I've read your
Yeah.
book, I've worked out with you, been doing it for a year, love it. But I haven't heard you explain exactly how slow, because some people slow maybe too fast.
Right.
And to the point of where your muscles will not go any further.
Well, here's how I describe it to clients. You pick a resistance on a machine or with free weights, whatever the device is you're using. Oh, thanks. You start the exercise as slowly as you can possibly start it. So the rule of thumb we say is take about a second or two to move the weights the first inch. So this way you're not suddenly overcoming inertia. The very first repetition of any exercise is the most dangerous, because that's where you have the most amount of strength to hurt yourself. The safest repetition in any set of an exercise is the last one, where you have no more strength left. You can't move fast enough to cause injury. And then once you start it slow, then you just want to move that slowly until you complete the lift, reverse just as slowly, and lower down at that same speed. Without resting, you reverse again, and you continue until you reach a deep, complete level of muscle fatigue. What that does is it stimulates all of the available muscle fibers to become stronger. And once you've performed a set of an exercise like that, you're done. You move on to the next exercise. You might do 5, 6, 8 exercises in a session, then you're done. Go home and eat a lot of fat. And protein. Fatty protein. I apologize. Yes?
I've seen a number of recommendations, say, on the internet from
Yeah. Yeah, so the question was about what they call HIIT exercise, which is called high intensity interval training, which is taking aerobic exercise and making it really intense. So for example, you might get on a treadmill, jog at about 5 miles an hour for 30, 40 seconds, and then put it up as high as you possibly can put it and run on the treadmill for the next 3, 4 minutes until you feel like you're going to collapse, and then you cool down again from there. But what that is doing is making the work of your muscles more intense. Well, it's like an evolution. You go from a monkey to like a Cro-Magnon to a Homo sapien. So HIIT training to me is like you go from aerobics to HIIT training to then high intensity resistance training. There's nothing that HIIT training can't give you that high intensity strength training can, and high intensity strength training can give you everything that any form of aerobics can. So if you're doing both, you're just wasting your time. Right. Slow resistance training, meaning safe and controlled weightlifting, will improve endurance by increasing your, and voila, without all the pounding and the grinding of your joints, which is one thing when you're a kid, but as you get to be our age, it takes its toll. Yes?
Is it better to do lighter weight and get up to, say, 5 or 6 reps, or to do a heavier weight that you can only do, say, 3 or 4 repetitions?
The science on the subject shows that it doesn't make much difference, so long as you get the muscles to complete fatigue within what's called the anaerobic range. So we'll have clients that they just want to get the exercise routine over with. They're willing to do 3 repetitions to failure. Other clients, if you give them that kind of a weight to begin, they're flying all over the place. They run out of the gym. So they got to start out a little bit lighter and then build up into the intensity. But it is a good question. It is a good question. I don't think there really isn't any real good science to show that one is actually better than the other. Seems to be that within a certain range, it's about the same.
What's the question?
Oh, what was the question? Whether or not it's better to use lighter weights for a longer time or heavier weights for a shorter time. And the whole idea, by the way, behind light weights gives you cut and tone, and heavy weights give you bulk and strength, that's completely, absolutely untrue.
Brad, can you
Yes.
explain a little bit more about what are mitochondria and why having more of them are beneficial?
Well, on the slide I showed that the mitochondria are like the energy-producing powerhouses, cellular powerhouses within the muscle. So if I took my magic mitochondria wand and tapped you and took all your mitochondria away, you couldn't move. You'd collapse. You'd have no ability to produce energy. So by proliferating them, you allow yourself more energy. You can produce more energy. I mean, within the muscles themselves, that allows you to be more enduring, stronger, and things of that nature. So they're utilizing ATP and oxygen more and producing it more readily. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I was curious, have you always done the slow burn? Is that how you started your fitness? Or did you start the traditional way with weights?
I started the traditional way. I did a lot of, one of the reasons, I don't know if you knew last year, were you here last year? I had terrible knee pain, and last year I had to get a knee operation for a partial knee replacement because of all the years of jogging that I did, martial arts that I did. I completely, at 50, I now have the knees of like an 85-year-old because of all of the physical activities that I did. And I used to do powerlifting, I dabbled in Olympic lifting, and all of those types of things are extremely stressful on the joints. There are some folks who can do it and they kind of get away with it. Some people smoke to their 90 and they don't even get emphysema. But still, it's wear and tear.
Did you see a big difference in the two?
Well, I mean now, I'm 50 years old. I don't have, other than my knee, I don't have a joint ache or pain, and I find that I'm in better shape now than when I was doing all of that other stuff. Right. So what Dr. Vernon is saying is that while if you adopt a strength training program, the forthcoming benefits are available to you only if you combine it with an eating plan, especially one of low carbohydrates, although I like to call it now a normal carbohydrate diet.
Yes.
But as we all refer to it, a low carbohydrate diet that is adequate in fat and protein. In fact, and it's good you brought this up, Mary, I've had just recently a couple of vegan vegetarians come into the gym, and I sat with them and I explained to them, what you would think I would explain to them. And one woman said to me, well, I'm not going to change. I'm absolutely not going to do it. I'm not going to eat any animal matter whatsoever. And I said, well, then you shouldn't train here at my gym because I'm stealing her money. She's not going to build an ounce of muscle if she's going to continue to eat. And in fact, what will happen is she'll train, break her muscle tissue down, and it'll just stay there. So I'd actually be hurting her if I took her as a client. Yes?
If the context is right, so the context here being you're not very overweight, you're maybe on the younger side still, and you're interested in playing certain sports that involve a lot of running like soccer or basketball.
Yeah.
What's your view for that kind of person on sprinting
Right.
as opposed to jogging?
Well, it's like, again, so the question was, let's say somebody's involved in a sport that has a lot of running or sprinting or jogging. I guess what you're asking is the resistance training enough? Right, the answer is no. But the reason is because, again, it boils down to a specific adaptation to an imposed demand. So it's the same way, if you want to be good at golf, strength training is not going to do you the good that you need. You need to practice golf. If you want to be a runner, you have to run. If you want to do CrossFit, the best thing to do is be as strong as you can be, and then go practice those things that you need to practice in order to be good at CrossFit. But if you're somebody who likes to play chess and read or nap, if you strength train once or twice a week, you are absolved. Did I do that right? All right, yes.
Is it doing it slowly
Yeah.
just safer, or is it something actually happening to your muscles that's different from the traditional methods?
Right. There is not a lot of research on it, but there is some research that personally I think is well done to suggest that the slower repetitions are superior to faster ones, because when you're lifting the weights fast, you're invoking some degree of momentum, which means that your muscles are highly loaded when you start. It's sort of like in Olympic lifting. So you've ever seen the Olympic lifters? What they'll do is they'll start and they pull really strong. So they are lifting an extremely heavy weight up, but then what they're doing is they're taking it, holding it in this position, ducking down underneath it to then lift it with their legs. So there's a point of unloading and then sudden loading again. And when you lower a weight really quickly, you're just letting gravity do all the work. So while you can get stronger lifting like that, it's not an optimal way to load the muscles. And it's not as safe because, as we know, F equals ma, force equals mass times acceleration. The greater the sudden force you produce against a resistance, the higher or tension you place against it, the greater the force and the greater the force. None of us know the tensile limits of our tendons or ligaments, and I don't suggest you trying to find out. All right, just one more question. Yes?
What about resistance equipment as opposed to a set weight?
You mean like machines as opposed to free weights? Like that? So the question was, is free weights or machines better, I guess, right? Well, the fact of the matter is this: your muscles, all they do is they contract and they uncontract against resistance. They don't know if you're lifting if you're in a Nautilus machine using free weights. It doesn't know. All it knows is that I contract and uncontract sufficiently enough to stimulate a positive tissue adaptation. That's all your muscles know. Now, on machines, you can do that more safely than using free weights. So that's, the weight's not going to fall on you.
Fred?
Yes.
Can I just put in a word for the total gym?
Oh yeah.
This guy I married Steve. He got shoulders on him. That's slow burn on the total gym. That thing that Chuck Norris and Christy Brinkley are
Right.
constantly flogging on television.
The total gym, yeah. And it uses,
Very efficient piece of equipment, but he does slow burn on the total gym.
right, which allows you to use your own body weight as the resistance, and then as you get immensely stronger and you can put weight plates on it. So again, it's safety first. It really is a matter of what am I doing and why am I doing it? And is it the safest way to do it? That should be your first concern. One more?
Yeah, let's stop.
Okay, I have to stop now, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred.